Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Protecting us. And so you have this little voice in your mind. It's like, oh, don't knock on that door. Don't knock on that door. Don't go into door-to-door sales. People are just going to slam the door in there. You're just going to be bothering people. You're going to write whatever. And the fact of the matter is, that's not what you experienced, right? What the amygdala is telling you and warning you about isn't what you actually experienced. And that's what I think is important about the subconscious, and specifically about how it guards against us taking risk. You with me?
Yeah.
There's a thing called the reticular activator. And when you go out and you buy a car, and let's say it's a blue Honda Accord, right? All of a sudden you see blue Honda Accords everywhere. And and you thought you were the only one on the planet that owned a blue one, right? And you're like, what? My neighbor down the street has one, right? And you're like, what is this? That's that manifestation. It's that reticular activator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the reticular activator can work both in a positive way, but it can also work in a negative way. And this manifestation is all about overcoming a lot of that amygdala and that sort of protecting you from risk kind of thing, right? Where it's almost protecting you against success, right? And so what I want people to understand from this, and what I think is really important about your story, is what you learned about mastering that, mastering your subconscious, right? So, I mentioned Tony Robbins, and I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. And Tony has a thing that he does every morning. It's called a cold plunge. Okay. And he does a cold plunge every morning. And the reason that he does it is because his amygdala is screaming at him, don't get in that water. Don't do this uncomfortable thing. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. Okay. And yet here's Tony literally telling his amygdala, telling his subconscious, when I say we're going, we're flipping going. That's all there is to it. You with me?
Yeah.
That's literally that manifestation that you're talking about, where you take control consciously of what your subconscious is trying to do. You with me?
Uh-huh.
And eventually you get to a point to where you're like, no. We're going to seek uncomfortable, right? We're going to seek non-comfort. We're not going to seek comfort. We're going to do just the opposite. Fair?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So you decide, sorry about that. I felt like it was a moment to help, right? So you made a decision to get into solar. And it was a few years ago now, you said, right?
Yeah.
Talk about, number one, that decision. Number two, what did you experience when you got into the industry?
Well, that decision, it's funny because all those things I've told you in my life were very whimsical decisions.
Yeah.
I'll go here, I'll go there. This was another one of those, like, let me try solar out. It wasn't like a serious career move, kind of big jump, right? When I first started, I had no money. I just tried this startup and it was all gone. So my solar friend, I was able to sleep on his couch and work for the same company as him for like 2 months until the checks started coming in.
Yeah.
And it was another grind. It was a door-to-door, industry. It wasn't in solar in California, there's really two types of companies. There's ones that are sales organizations and ones that are basically the solar installation company.
Right.
So, and some solar installation companies internalize everything. They internalize their sales guys and all that other stuff. But then there's other installers that will install whoever contracts them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was one of those reps that was able to sell for different installers,
Mm-hmm.
and they all offer different things. So some had different loans, some had different equipment. And so I was more of a consultant, and I can, go with any of these companies. Let me pick the one that best fits what you want, and that's a good reputation, that's going to do a good job and be there for you later. And so that was really another grind of door-to-door sales.
Mm-hmm.
But I was already used to it. There was no real hesitancy about the door knocking part. Sometimes you don't know the pitch well, and but that's how I started out with alarms. So I had to remind myself, it's fine.
Yeah.
So it started off pretty quick because a lot of people wanted solar. So as long as you put the work in, which I was good at, then you would get the people to talk to you and all that. So yeah, I was able to move out pretty quickly. And then I had a little experience in the alarm side of building sales teams and training them to do it. So I had a sales team of about 6.
Mm-hmm.
So I would train them on door knocking, and we'd go out together. So I started building a business out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a really good experience. But the logistics of having a bunch of hands in the pot really made a lot of projects have a lot of unnecessary problems.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's the sales guy, he sells it, passes it to the installer. Things change and they don't tell you or something. They deliver different panels than you signed them up for. Stuff like that would happen commonly. And so there's a lot of frustrations with that, and managing and training reps has its own headaches. So I got kind of fed up with it. And when COVID happened, I actually, just before COVID, this was a year before COVID, I actually decided solar's not for me anymore. I'm going to do a new life path. So I got trained to be a certified hiking guide, and I had a job lined up where I would help people hike in Alaska. So that was where I was going.
That's some intense stuff.
It was pretty intense, but that's what I love, is hiking, and a lot of my traveling had to do with going to natural places, rainforests, and hiking through them. So that was a cool job. I thought, let's start that. And another cool allure is you go to Alaska for the summers, and it's a seasonal job, and in the winter everybody leaves, so then you can go be like a snowboard instructor and just keep living in these cool places doing fun stuff. And that's where I was going. But then when COVID happened, couldn't do any of that. I never even made it to Alaska. My plane ticket, it was like 2 weeks before when I got an email, hey, this is a pandemic.
Kind of threw a monkey wrench in that deal.
Yeah, there's no more tourists. So I went back home, and I got really back into biology.
Yeah.
I started taking classes on plant science, and an idea came to me. It felt like from God, of like, hey, you should start a backyard food co-op where you do the door-to-door thing, and you set up little grow areas in people's yards, and they give you access to their backyard. And then you start sharing that food with the participants, and the extra food you start selling or do whatever you want with. And it made so much sense during a time when nobody could be near each other, and like everybody was divided, and it's like this could bring everyone together. And the food system right now is in such a bad shape.
Yeah.
Food nutrients is going down, prices going up, and all this stuff. And I was like, man, this could change the world. So
and people needed to get outside. Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
I needed to. I walked 136 miles in the first 30 days that we were shut down. I'm not joking, dude. Half of it was up a giant hill in Carlsbad, and it was one of those things where I just had to get out. They shut my gyms down. They shut down the gym at the apartment complex we were living at, which was one of the reasons I rented an apartment there, right? The gym had to check off a bunch of boxes, right? And then my Planet Fitness was shut down. So I literally had nowhere to work out. I was climbing the walls, right? We're in an apartment that probably was, well, actually, we were in an apartment that was definitely too small for us. And it was like, I got to get outside. I got to get out in the sun. I got to get some air in my lungs, right? I get my blood pumping, right?
Yeah.
This has got to get right. Kind of like the door-to-door knocking on doors thing. At least you're outside, right? You're moving, So, I know exactly what you're talking about. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, yeah. I was the walker too. I think a lot of people converted to walking and gardening. If you had a backyard, I know a ton of people that I started learning about gardening during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. And so that was another.
It's therapeutic, dude. You get your hands in the dirt and you do something productive. I mean, it's therapeutic.
Yeah. And that was during COVID. I moved back to New Orleans for all that to be with my family. And so I had this drive, this idea, and I wanted to make it happen. But we're in this COVID phase. So I'm watching videos, I'm business planning, I'm learning more about plants. And it was a very big time for me to like going back to school in a sense. And then I got tired of not working. Like I itch when I'm just getting paid to do nothing. I can't do it. So one of actually the same guy that got me into the solar way back when called me. He's like, hey, we have this positioning opening up that I want you to do. You'd be awesome for it. It's in solar and yada, yada. So I was like, well, let me think about it. And the only way I'll do it in my mind the only way I'll do it is if I could still pursue my gardening path, my career. I wanted this idea that I have to eventually be my business that that's my only job is to make this work. So that was 2020, end of 2020. I came back out here, and this is a kind of a cool story and maybe a contestant for your next appearance. Mm-hmm. So I put my profile on Craigslist in California, in San Diego, because that's where I was going to live and work. And I looked at a bunch of places, and eventually somebody found me. His name's Chris Burrows. And he's like, hey, we got a room open. We got a yard with a bunch of grow beds. You can, do whatever you want back there. I garden in it. And it's like, let me, come check it out. So I Zoom interviewed with him, and I was like, yes, okay, I can garden and live in there. I'm good. So this is where I'll start. We became really good friends as we were roommates. And he told me his story. He grew up in East County, San Diego, gangbanger, the whole nine, was in prison a lot, like possession of weapons, all kinds of stuff, and had a life-changing moment in jail. But when he was in the hole, and he came out of the hole like, okay, time to change the world with the garden business. And so he developed a business that I'm working with now, Garden 31. It's a nonprofit organization, but its goal is to help people that, from his background, to bring agriculture into their neighborhoods and value in that sense. So good food for people, have it be a business in their neighborhoods, and a rehab center, and kind of all mixed into one. So he told me this plan one day when we're sitting on the back porch, and I'm like, I didn't tell you, but the reason I came out here was for a similar community kind of experience with food. And so we were like, wow, this is meant to be. This kind of stuff isn't an accident. Let's do the nonprofit idea, and we can incorporate mine into that plan. He already kind of mapped that out as part of it too. So like he already kind of did the business planning for me in a sense. So that was amazing. And we filed for the 501(c) nonprofit the next day in his room. That was 3 years ago. And so I'm now that vision. The subconscious has finally accepted the idea of my business coming to life through this nonprofit. And this year we're starting what I called Neighbor Farms, which was the backyard food co-op. We're going to start it in the nonprofit this year. So this is the year of manifesting for me, that idea that came to me during COVID.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. And I'm still selling
awesome.
solar. And I work for a company now that does everything internally. So there's a lot less headaches. That it's been a great ride with solar.
Yeah.
But I've been doing the gardening with the nonprofit as like a lot of volunteer hours and a lot of part-time stuff. And I'm hoping either this year or next year it transitions into a full-time thing. So that's
cool.
Yeah.
So talk about the nonprofit, talk about what you guys are doing. And then I'm sure there are people that are going to be listening to this that want to help. So let's talk about that for a second.
Sure. So we're 3 years in, and we are now leasing 2 like 1 acre farm properties in Vista. It's all regenerative farming. We've got people that are coming out of life sentences that are now employees of ours on the farm. And we don't have, let me continue with the other stuff and I'll tell you what we need. We're in 2 continuation high schools in Vista as well.
Okay.
So they give us a big space in their school and we do a garden class, and we built out huge garden areas with the kids. So they from the ground up, they put DG down, built grow beds, wheelbarrowed soil in, and now we've got a full producing garden for them. And we combine the garden class at these high schools with what we call a character mastery program. Okay. So half of the class is dedicated to the farming and the gardening techniques. Mm-hmm. The other half is dedicated to building up our character. Okay. So we talk about different elements of character. Character is who you show up as when mm-hmm. you're in any situation, right? And there's different elements. There's loyalty, honesty, trust. There's all kinds of different aspects of your character. Mm-hmm. So we pick one and we just kind of do a group. We look up the etymology of the word. Where does it come from? The Latin meaning. And then we kind of start our discussion from there. And what does it mean to you? Or do you think you're good or bad at it? How can we practice it to get better? And so that has been an amazing experience with these kids. A lot of the kids in continuation schools don't have the best home situation, or they're in gangs, or whatever the case. A lot of them have pretty hard stories, and a lot of times it would come out and they would share it with their fellow classmates, and it became like a really big, friendship circle. And then you see all the kids hanging together at school, going to classes together. So they're making friends, they're opening up, and it's been a wild experience that we didn't expect. But it feeds into what we're doing. We want them to have apprenticeships and have like a way into agriculture if they want. We have an avenue to go to Miracosta horticulture program and get scholarships, or they can apprentice on our farms and do that, or not, whatever they want to do. But a lot of kids at these schools don't want to go to college, don't care, never thought of it. But now there's an opportunity to go into something they found out that they like, that there's a scholarship for. And so it's helped in a lot of ways. But our main goal, when Chris thought of this whole plan, is to have like a base property, which, 20 plus acres, have a few houses on it that are recovery homes, and, farm it, have all kinds of cool stuff on it too. But then that is kind of the healing grounds for people to heal, master their character, become the person that they're meant to be. And then if they want to continue this path, if they complete the apprenticeship program, then we'll help them buy a farm in their neighborhood and replicate what we've done that in there, so they can bring it back to their community. And then we build out from there. So right now we're in that phase where we're just farming, and we have these school programs. And we also do a juvenile detention facility in East Mesa. We go there once a week on Saturdays for 4 hours, and they have a garden there too, similar structure. And but if we had a home base with houses on it, that would help us really hit our mission out of the park. So that's what we're aiming for. That's our main focus right now.
So how many houses would you need? Let's say you had a 20 acre piece of property with a main house. How many other houses would you need, and what size would they need to be?
We've been having a lot of discussions about that. The vision for the first for our main hub is to have 3 fairly large healing houses. One mm-hmm. would be adult male, 1 adult female, and then 1 for 18 and under, basically. Mm-hmm. And then all 3 would be on the same property, but separate buildings with maybe like 12 rooms in each house. Mm-hmm. And then, and so there'd be 3 different programs, basically 1 for each, and then like a community aspect where we all meet up too and mingle up.
So a main house and then 3 others?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And you need 12 bedrooms each?
That's ideal. Yeah.
So you're going to have to build it.
We're going to have to build it. Yeah. We're looking, we have a grant right now. We've been, the board of the board for this nonprofit is amazing. Like, I don't know how Chris found all these people and put them together, but they can make the dream come true. And they've wrote a lot of grants that have helped us get this far. We have a grant right now to prepare to buy a property, and they'll pay. I'm not on this grant team, but it's something like, I think they'll pay up to $1 million towards the property. So we've been looking at properties right now to start. A lot of them have one house or two already on it. So we would need to build on that and make it happen.
You have a contractor?
No, nope.
Okay, I've got the best one in the business.
Great.
They actually specialize in ground up, multifamily, that kind of thing. So I'll put you together with them. They're amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. So so what do you guys? So you have needs. You have something that if somebody's listening to this and they want to help, how can they help you?
Well, volunteers are always helpful on the farms. But like our big needs are, we have a lot of people putting in volunteer hours that want to be full time to really make this happen. So being able to pay for maybe 3 full-time positions would catapult us into the next phase. Because right now I'm part-time because I'm doing solar, and there's a few others like that are very much involved, but don't have a full commitment out of them. With this group fully committed, I think the sky's the limit.
What would that cost?
I mean, a salary $80,000 per person.
So 240.
Yeah, 240 per year would be a really good start. And I mean, we want to be self-sufficient. That wouldn't need to be every year. These programs will be funded not only by grants and donations, but we're gonna have a lot of food to sell. So we're doing farmers markets with the kids right now, and we're doing some other stuff. But we want to use this food to not only tell people our story, but to facilitate healthy changes. And we want to donate a lot of it and sell a lot of it as well. And so kind of a model of the people who can afford it to buy it for fair market value, but it's still a lot of money that would income and supplement all of our salaries and stuff. So we wouldn't need as many donations in the future. Right.
Okay. And you're a 501c3. And what's the name? How could people reach the 501c3?
Garden 31 is the name. You can Google it and find a bunch of links. It's garden31.org is our website. We've got an Instagram and all that other stuff too. So yeah, you can just Google Garden 31 if you forget everything I said.
Well, we'll put a link in your description, in the episode description, so people can just click on it and go.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to cover before we wrap up?
No, it's been an awesome ride. I just, I think as we talked, I really got the summary of my story. I want to say is that I've always been kind of whimsically following my heart. You know, that sounds good. My heart says yes. I'm doing it with very little thought. I think in my life, I've gone through cycles of it being easy to listen to my heart and harder to listen to my heart. And with this solar, this recent last like 2 years, it's been a little harder to make a full-time jump to the gardening program or whatever. And I just want to remind everyone that it is cyclical. No matter how much you master the subconscious processes, it wouldn't be fun if it didn't get harder as you go. And so I've recently gone through a little bit of a downtime for me in my manifestation. And since November, my birthday, this last year, it's been a huge uptrend. So I'm excited for this year and making everything happen.
That's awesome. And isn't that the saying that some really, really wise man once said or woman said, that you don't necessarily want it to get easier, you just want to be better?
That's a good saying. That really sums it up, you know?
Yeah. That's cool, buddy. Well, thanks so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. This has been a lot of fun.
It has been. Thanks for having me, Mike. Appreciate it.
I enjoyed it, bud. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out Calendly.com/Rio760.